The quest beyond the flames. The fire had waned, its embers glowing faintly against the darkened horizon. The time traveler, his heart heavy with loss, stood beside Hermes, the swift-footed messenger of the gods, who had appeared unexpectedly amidst the chaos. They shared a common purpose now, a desperate hope to find Weena, whose fate remained uncertain. "The flames consumed much," the time traveler murmured, his voice trembling. "But I cannot leave without knowing her fate. If there is even a chance she lives." Hermes placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, his golden-winged sandals glinting faintly in the moonlight. "Worry not, mortal traveler," he said, his voice both calm and resolute. "Together we shall traverse time and space to uncover the truth. The gods do not abandon those who stand against the dark." With the Morlocks scattered, the time traveler and Hermes delved into the smoldering remnants of the forest. Their surroundings were eerily silent, save for the occasional crackle of burning wood. The time traveler's heart raced as he scanned the area, calling out Weena's name. As they moved deeper into the woods, Hermes halted, his keen senses alert to something the time traveler couldn't yet perceive. "The air here carries traces of life," he said, crouching down to inspect a faint trail of delicate footprints in the ash. "This way." Their journey led them to the mouth of a cavern, a place the Morlocks had abandoned in their frenzy to escape the fire. It was dark, cold, and uninviting, but the faint echo of a soft cry reached their ears. "Weena!" the time traveler exclaimed, his voice breaking with hope and fear. Hermes drew forth a small lyre from his satchel. With a stroke of its strings, the cavern illuminated, revealing a frightened but unharmed Weena curled in the shadows. She looked up at the light with wide, tearful eyes, her features brightening as she recognized her friend. "Time traveler!" she cried, rushing into his embrace. Overwhelmed, the time traveler held her close, silently vowing to protect her from the dangers that plagued her world. Hermes looked on, a satisfied smile on his lips. "The journey does not end here," he said. "But for now, let us cherish this victory. Together, we will face whatever challenges lie ahead." And so, the unlikely trio, mortal, immortal, and Eloy, prepared to embark on a new adventure, united by friendship, hope, and the determination to defy the forces that sought to divide them. Chapter: The Doctor's Intervention. Unbeknownst to the time traveler and Hermes, Weena had managed to climb aboard the time machine during the chaos of the fire. Her fragile body was trembling, but her will to survive propelled her forward. As the machine whirred to life, she found herself transported to Victorian England, landing in the midst of the bustling streets of London. Confused and weak, she wandered until she stumbled across a grand house with a brass plate that read, "Dr. Watson, Consulting Physician." Weena was faint, but recognized the kindness in Watson's eyes as he opened the door to her fragile figure. Watson, already well acquainted with mysterious and unconventional cases thanks to his association with Sherlock Holmes, took her in without hesitation. Over the next few days, Watson meticulously cared for Weena. Though her injuries and exhaustion were severe, he was fascinated by her childlike innocence and curiosity about the modern world. Using his medical expertise, Watson treated her wounds and strengthened her spirit. Weena, in turn, regaled Watson with fragmented stories of her distant world, the terrifying Morlocks, and the kind time traveler who had tried to protect her. Chapter: Reunion revitalized, Weena knew she must return to her own time to reunite with the time traveler. Watson escorted her back to the time machine, ensuring she understood how to operate its controls. With a heartfelt farewell, he handed her a small journal, a gift to record her thoughts and adventures. When the time machine reappeared in her world, Weena emerged just as Hermes and the time traveler reached the cavern. The reunion was joyous, but tinged with wonder as she recounted her experiences with Dr. Watson. "He was a healer unlike any I've ever known," Weena said, her eyes sparkling. "His world was strange and bustling, but his heart was pure. He saved me with compassion and wisdom, teaching me that even in distant times, kindness endures." Hermes nodded in understanding, and the time traveler marveled at the serendipity of her journey. Together, they realized her experience had brought new hope and resilience to their mission. a beacon against the darkness of the Morlocks. A revelation of names, as Weena shared her story with the time traveler and Hermes. Her words painted a vivid picture of the kind man who had saved her. A man with a warm home, a gentle touch, and an insatiable curiosity about the world. She spoke of a journal he had gifted her and a brass plate on his door that read Dr. John Watson. The time traveler froze at the mention of the name. He had read the tales of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Could it be? Had Weena truly crossed paths with the very Watson whose adventures had captivated readers for years? This Watson, the time traveler said, his voice trembling with awe. He is known in my time, Weena. His stories are recorded, his name revered. It seems your journey has bridged fiction and reality. Hermes, ever watchful, nodded knowingly. The threads of time are woven strangely, he mused. It appears this Watson is a man of flesh and blood, whose deeds echo across eras. The realization left the time traveler both astonished and humbled. He vowed to return to Watson's time, not only to thank the man who had saved Weena, but also to confirm the existence of one of history's most celebrated figures. A gratitude across time. The time machine came to a gentle halt in the cobblestone streets of Victorian London. Weena clutched the small leather journal Watson had given her heart racing with anticipation. This time, she was not alone. She had the time traveler by her side. They approached the familiar townhouse, its gas lamps glowing warmly in the evening fog. The brass plate gleamed. Dr. John Watson, consulting physician. Watson himself opened the door, startled to see the familiar figure of Weena standing before him. His eyes widened as he took in the man beside her. "Dr. Watson," the time traveler said, extending his hand, "you have my eternal gratitude. My name is H.G. Wells, and this is the Weena you so selflessly aided." Watson's gaze darted between them, his sharp mind already piecing together what had once seemed impossible. "So," he murmured, his voice tinged with wonder. "The time machine. It's real." Weena stepped forward, handing him the journal he had given her, now filled with sketches and notes of her journey. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice laced with both gratitude and the traces of Watson's influence on her speech. Watson invited them inside, his excitement barely contained as the time traveler recounted his own adventures. They spoke late into the night, exchanging knowledge and stories. For Watson, it was confirmation of a world he had only glimpsed through the strange woman who had appeared on his doorstep. For Wells, it was a meeting of minds that transcended time itself. As dawn broke, the time traveler and Weena prepared to leave, promising not to forget the kindness of the doctor who had bridged their worlds. Watson watched them go, the journal still in his hands and a small smile playing on his lips. He knew he had been part of something extraordinary, something that would remain with him forever. Watson's reflections, as the morning sun filtered through the lace curtains of his study, Dr. John Watson sat in his favorite armchair, the leather journal resting in his lap. The events of the previous night had left him shaken, but not in the usual way. This was not the thrill of solving a criminal case alongside Holmes, nor the intrigue of unraveling a human mystery. This was something altogether different. He traced his fingers over the journal's cover, thinking of the young woman who had arrived at his doorstep weeks before. Weena, fragile, innocent, and utterly otherworldly. Watson had been humbled by her trust in him, and now he understood just how far she had traveled to seek his help. Her words, though often halting and strange, had painted a picture of a world so alien that it bordered on the unfathomable. The time traveler, Wells, as he'd introduced himself, had spoken of monstrous beings called Morlocks, and the serene but vulnerable Eloy. And yet, it was the humanity in Weena's story that resonated most deeply with Watson. Her journey across time and space, driven by a need for compassion and safety, reminded him that the human spirit was boundless, transcending even the limits of time itself. Watson pondered the implications of their visit. Time travel was no longer a mere fantasy. It was reality, a scientific achievement that had shattered the boundaries of imagination. He marveled at the brilliance required to build such a device, but his admiration was tempered by a deep sense of responsibility. If mankind had the power to travel through time, then it also had the power to alter the course of history, for better or worse. He looked down at the journal again, its pages now filled with Weena's delicate sketches and notes, and wondered what future her world held. Could the kindness he had shown her ripple across time, inspiring change in a distant era? Could the time traveler's inventions someday lead humanity to a brighter future? Watson leaned back in his chair, his mind racing with questions. He wished Holmes had been there to witness it all. The great detective's deductions might have brought clarity to the mysteries that now weighed on Watson's heart. But Holmes was off on another case, oblivious to the extraordinary guests Watson had hosted. For now, Watson resolved to treasure the experience, knowing he had played a small but significant role in something far greater than himself. As the first rays of sunlight warmed the room, he whispered to himself, "The universe is vast, and its secrets are infinite. Perhaps in the end, compassion and curiosity are what truly bind us together, across time and beyond."